Steele Plus tour with selections for November the 19th. And up for you today, I've got 8 selections, got some quick hitters for you. We're going to touch bases with the FBS. We're going to touch bases with the NFL and the FCS. And wanted to give you a little scare there. Got UMass up there. I know you guys love UMass. Well, guess what? I fooled you. We're actually going to go against UMass this week. I know when I say UMass, you guys are a little upset. They won two for us in Phil Steele Plus early, but then lost 3 in a row for us and actually fired their head coach. And now we're going to explore their game this week against Army. So let's dive right into it. I'm going to show you how to use the site and get your free plays complete with reasoning. Now, UMass, it's not here, but if you go to your magazine, you can look in your magazine, and it's got spread logs. And you will see that Massachusetts is 3-15-1 against the spread the last 4 years. It wasn't that bad heading into the season, but they lost at Pitt, at Coastal, at Florida State, at Liberty, 0-4 against the spread on the road this year. They are actually minus. Look at this. Now, this shows you home and away. This is in the magazine as well, but here it's updated. And I love the red-green. The red-green is the best feature, probably one of the best features of Phil Steele Plus. And you could see bad teams here you have a green-red matchup in this week, as you would expect with the 36.5-point favorite. Green means good, and I believe it's anything over 200 yards rushing. Red is bad. That's anything under 75 yards rushing. Here, red is bad, anything over 200 yards rushing. And here, green is good, anything under 75 yards rushing. So you could tell Army's good, both sides of the ball. Massachusetts struggles both sides of the ball. But at home, UMass is only minus 67. On the road, they're minus 364 yards per game. They outgained 587 to 223. And yes, they are on the road. Army does well in home finales. And if we click here on the last 40 years results, this gives you every Army game against the spread since 1976. It's actually the last 45 years. Down here, we had a nice font going on here. And then the last couple of years, it's got a little messed up. We're going to get all that cleaned up. And over the winter this year, what we're going to do is we're going to put, just like we have in the magazine, bold and unbold. If they won the game straight up, this will be in bold. That allows you to see things. So they'll have 2 bolds here. In this year, Boston College in 2012, they beat. And here, Air Force, they beat. But you won't have to look to see the wins. You'll be able to see the wins at a glance. We're going to do all that this offseason, upgrading it even more. But if you look at the last 5 years, they covered against Air Force in their home finale. They covered against VMI. They won the game by 41. That's important. They covered the game against Colgate, an FCS team. They covered the game against Duke, and they covered the game against Morgan State, 60-3. So they do well in home finales. They are going to play a lot of seniors, but they've covered 5 in a row. And as mentioned, it's a red-green game. You've got Army's unstoppable run offense, and it's a very disciplined offense, too. And that's one thing I like in this one. You have a disciplined Army playing in their home finale. You know they're going to be focused. They want to go out on a strong note. Meanwhile, you got a UMass staff who's got an interim head coach in Alex Miller. What are these players playing for right now? They've got 1 win. They're coming in here off of losses to Rhode Island and Maine. They fired their head coach and interim staff. All the assistant coaches are scrambling for jobs. The players are probably not even focused on football right now, and that's deadly when you face the option. The option, you have to, every single player, all 11 players have to do their play, every play, or else all of a sudden, boom, it's a big play. I think we're going to see a lot of those in this game. So when you get your highlights on ESPN, if they show any highlights from the Army-UMass game, you're going to see a lot of Army 75-yard runs for touchdowns because the UMass defense is not focused on it. Now, the game we did lose on Phil Steele Plus earlier, which bothers me a little bit, we had Army. And let's go back and see what the spread was. I do want to remind you when you go to the homepage here, Todd put this in a couple weeks ago. You can get the college ATS logs. Just click here on the college ATS logs. Army was a 34.5-point favorite over Connecticut. So if you're wondering where the spread is, it's not on these team pages. You can get the spread on every game right here. So Army was a 34.5-point favorite over UConn, and we had ourselves a very easy win in that game. At least it appeared that way. Army led 42-0. And once again, I'm going to click on the box score. Box scores are courtesy of collegepressbox.com. Ted Ganji lets us post these on my site. I don't compile all the box scores. These are straight from the school, straight from the game. and but they're all on the site. As you see, Army led 42-0 at the half. And then what happened, this dude here, Famanichu, his brother plays for Clemson. He plays for UConn. He started running and passing, and I think he had, let's see how many yards he had in this game. This gives you the stats. It gives you the leaders. Famanichu ran for 73 yards, 13 lost, 60 net. His running was huge in the second half against the Army backups, and he threw for 109 yards. Now, if you look at UMass and you're worried about a mobile quarterback running on our defense, here's their quarterbacks. And we'll click here on the individual player stats, and we'll see that Brady Olson, Tyler Lytle, and DeRuza is three quarterbacks here. This guy has rushed for 32 yards on the year. Brady Olson has rushed for 23 yards on the year, and Tyler Little for minus 23. They don't have the mobile quarterback. That perplexed us in this backdoor cover for UConn. I mentioned this game is a 52-21 win. We were covering the entire game except right here. And once again, it still bothers me. Late in the game, they drive 88 yards in 10 plays and get the backdoor cover with 1 minute, 9 seconds left on a Famanichu run. So I don't think that's going to happen here this week. I think we win even easier this week. It's a green-red matchup. It's a team that's great in their home finals against one that's horrific on the road, being outgained by 364 yards per game. And these two did meet. Remember, when you click here, this tells you when they've last met. Army was a 34-point favorite in 2019. They won 63-7. I would expect that again. And I'll show you on another one where these are. But these last 24 years matchups are huge. Color-coded green and red. I'll do one that's got more games on it coming up. But so we've got a lot of stuff going for us there. I'm going to take Army. I'm going to lay the 36.5. I think they'll probably be over the 36.5 at halftime like they were against UConn. And I think they keep rolling in the second half. It is their home final. They want to go out with a strong note. Let's go out from that game to a highly competitive game, one where the spread is 3. And we're going to go out to the Pac-12. Arizona State is on the left, and Oregon State is on the right. So when we look at this game, we're going to put it right there like that. First of all, Oregon State delivered for me last week here on Phil Steele Plus. We used them as the green-red game against Stanford. They did pretty much dominate, 475 to 230 yards, 29 to 15 first downs. Thanks for the win last week, Oregon State. Now, Arizona State has struggled. They're a warm weather team. They're out here in the desert. They're out in warm weather. And last week they played in the rain and the cold of Washington. Didn't cover, and that was just the strangest game. They were down 17-7 at the half. And once again, go back to collegepressbox.com. I go through the play-by-play of every single game every week. I use collegepressbox.com for that. And I, of course, watch every game. So I'm watching this game, and it is 24-14 Washington right here in the fourth quarter. And they've got the football. And then all of a sudden they started turning the ball over. And all of a sudden what was a sure win for Washington straight up, it actually turned into a game where they weren't covering after an interception return for a touchdown. See, we'll go over here and show it to you. So it's still Washington leading in the fourth quarter. Arizona State drives all the way down the field and scores a touchdown, 24-21. Then Washington right here punts. Arizona State drives down the field, scores again, 28-24. Washington throws the interception return for a touchdown, and Arizona State's got the remarkable backdoor or front door cover. They're actually leading against the spread. Washington drives down and scores a touchdown. So if you're complaining, if you're an Arizona State backer and you're complaining about this touchdown with 8 seconds left, you should be complaining if you're a Washington backer, because they led this thing 24-14 in the fourth quarter. And in fact, Arizona State didn't score here until 5 minutes and 46 seconds left to pull within 3. And Washington State was plus a bunch of points and still winning the game outright with 5 minutes to go in the games. But that's Arizona State. Anyway, what I'm trying to say is they struggle in cold weather. It's supposed to be rainy. It's supposed to be 40s. And if you go back and look at their cold weather games, I believe they're 2-6. I forgot to write it down on my sheet. When I was doing the research last night, when they traveled up north and play in temperatures in the 40s or lower, I believe they are 2-6 against the spread. How's Oregon State done at home? Well, how about 6-2, their last 8 at home? And in fact, here we take a look here. Or no, 6-2 in the series, I think it is. Let's go take a look at this series, because this is going to give us a better background. Click on the opponent right here, and you get the last 24 years matchups at your fingertips. I built this site for me because this is what I use when I handicap a game. I just get my philsteele.com out. I could handicap any FCS game for you right now. Even though I don't watch the FCS, I haven't followed the FCS, I could handicap any game on there you want. I would just put the two teams left and right, gather my information, but we'll talk about that when we get to the FCS. But here we can see that the home team, now out here, when you see the home team here, if the word win is there, that means they won the game straight up. And as you can see, the home team is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 6 and 3, 7, 3, 8, 3, 9, 3, 9, 4, 10, 4, 11, 4, 12, 4, 13, 4, 14 and 4 straight up. You would figure that when Oregon State has to travel to the warm weather, they're probably huffing and puffing. And up here, the cold weather, it's a nice advantage for Oregon State. So the home team is 14 and 4 straight up in the different climates. And Oregon State has actually done well here, 6 and 2 straight up at home. Now, Oregon State this year also is playing well at home. Let's take a look at that. Once again, these are in the magazine. I like the green and red. The green and red doesn't work for the magazine. It's not as readable. It works clear as day here. But when you look at how Oregon State's done at home, they beat Hawaii, they beat Idaho, they beat Washington, they beat Utah. Utah is one of the best teams in the country. They beat Stanford. They are 5-0 at home this year. And let's take a look at home. They're plus 116 yards per game at home, minus 3 yards per game on the road. How's Arizona State doing? They're plus 146 yards per game at home, only plus 36 at home. Plus 36 yards per game on the road. Now, this one's wrong. Todd will get that corrected. Last week it was not 19 attempts or 19 completions on 3 attempts. That's why this is coming up 80%. So it's not quite 80%, and this isn't 63%. He'll get that one number corrected for you. But as you can see, you got the better home team. You got the series advantage. And if you take a look at the last 4 weeks and outright, now the average game grades out here are beautiful. They have nothing to do with Arizona State. The only thing they look at is total offense, rushing yards, passing yards, total defense, rushing yards, passing yards, and of course the score of the game is factored in heavily. And who you played. If they put up these kind of stats against an FCS team, this would probably be an 80. You put up these kind of stats at Washington, it's a 112. You put up these kind of stats against Ohio State, and it's going to be a 135. That's how this is done. Once again, no factors for Arizona State are involved in this whatsoever, so there's no bias. It's not like, oh, well, that's Ohio State, and they've got extra points for them. It's only what you do in the games and who you play. As you can see, the average game grades have Arizona State 106.6, Oregon State 104.8. If you had the 4-point home edge for the climate, that means Oregon State outright. Same thing with the last 4 weeks. In the last 4 weeks, just take a look at the last 4 weeks' games. Give you a good feel how the team's playing. Arizona State's slightly better, 107.5 to 105.9, but once again, factor in the home field edge. Oregon State should be favored. Add it all up, we've got a team that should be favored in great conditions as a dog at home. Your second play is Oregon State +3 at home. All right, let's get to your third play this week. And we take a look at a Friday night game. Now, taking a chance here. This could be Saturday morning you're watching this, and this game could have lost. And then you'd be like, or it could have won. It would be good. But I'm going to put a Friday night game in here because I feel pretty confident on this one for following reasons. It's a solid matchup for us this week. It's Air Force against Nevada. Now, the first thing I wanted to look at, I always look at how coaches do against the option. So let's go ahead and take a look at that. All you have to do is come down here. This is Nevada. Click on Air Force, and that gives you the last 24 meetings. Well, the first time that Norvell, and let's see when Norvell took over. You don't know that off the top of your head, do you? Well, if you go to the last 40 years results and come all the way down here, this tells you who the head coach is. So Jay Norvell took over in 2017. He went 3-9 his first year, 8-5, 7-6, 7-2. Here's the stats for each year. Brian Polian was the head coach prior to that. This all at your fingertips all the way back to 1988. Every team. As you see, Chris Ault was the head coach. Then he left. Then he came back. And he did a great job here. Norvell's doing a great job as well. But anyway, I wanted to see how Norvell did against the option. So let's take a look at his first meeting against the option, 2017. 591 yards, 550 yards per game rushing. He didn't have a clue what was going on. He also didn't have a defense. I remember talking to Coach Norvell that first year he was there. And it was a defense that did not fit the type of players he wanted whatsoever. He said he had to re-recruit an entirely different front seven to get to the players that he wanted in the front seven. As you can see, they struggled in his first year. Now, studying the film, having better players the second year, what'd they do? They held Air Force to 154 yards per game rushing, 250 yards overall. So does Jay Norvell know how to defend the option? I'm going to say yes. Did he learn his lesson year one? Yes, like a lot of coaches do. And does he have better players? I'd say he has even better players right now than he had in 2018. And if you go back and take a look at 2018, this is something else I want to show you. Once again, this is in a magazine, but you may not use it all the time. But it's a defensive foe versus foe offense. So this tells you, like here, they gave up 148 yards per game above what Oregon State averaged. So that tells you that on the season, take away the Nevada game and all the other games, Oregon State average, if that's 148, you're looking at 396 yards per game. But in that game against Nevada, they put up 148 above their average to get them to 540. That was number 11 out of any opponent that Oregon State played all year. Pretty bad. This is back to that 2018 season. But when he played Air Force, look at this. Air Force was averaging in all other games. If you take this 250 and you add that 180 to it, that means in all the other games except Nevada, they're averaging 430 yards per game. Nevada held them to 250, 180 yards below their season average, and that was the best any opponent did against Air Force that year. Does Jay Norvell know how to defend the option? Well, if you hold the team to a season low, my answer is yes. All right, now let's go to the other flip side. Air Force has only given up 55% of their passes and 184 yards this year. That matches up pretty well against a passing team, right? Look at Lafayette, the first team they played. They are an FCS squad, and they're not a great team. Navy, they don't throw the ball, okay? Utah State, they do throw the ball. They've got an explosive quarterback. 448 yards. Passing, 628 yards overall, loss. Florida Atlantic, they have a decent quarterback. They're more of a run team. They're a middle-of-the-road team this year, and they really have struggled on the road. New Mexico, they have no pass attack. Wyoming, they have no pass attack. Boise, they do have a pass attack. They have one of the better ones. I will give it to Air Force here. They held them to 259 yards, 337 yards, and won the game at Boise. So that was a good performance. San Diego State, no pass attack. Army, they don't pass the ball. Colorado State, run team. So they played two pass teams all year. That's why their stats are here. In the two teams they played that they throw the ball, they've given up 353 yards per game. And as you can see, Nevada throws the ball quite well. Carson Strong, potential first-round draft pick in the NFL, 2,858 yards, 27-4 ratio, hitting 70% of his passes. Dobbs, Turner, Horton, they loaded in the receiving core, 374 yards per game passing for them this year. Now, we take a look at the fact that Air Force is actually playing their third straight away game. So I like the situation. They played Army in Arlington. They played Colorado State. And now on a short week, they're traveling a third straight week. That's a nice advantage to have. How does Nevada do at home? Well, this year at home, they've beaten Wyoming. They've beaten Utah State. They've beaten San Diego State. They've beaten Fresno State. Actually, that was last year. This year, they've beaten Idaho State. They've beaten New Mexico State. They've beaten Hawaii. They've beaten UNLV. They beat San Jose State. So as you can tell, last year, this year, they don't lose at home. They are 18-9 against the spread. And this year, all three losses on the road, on the road, on the road. So the losses are on the road this year. Air Force, by the way, if you take a look at how they do as a Mountain West dog, 2-6-1 against the spread. So you have Nevada with an offensive edge. They have a large special teams edge. And I want to show you something else you can use here on Phil Steele Plus. Go to the homepage. And if you're ever wondering, a lot of folks say, when I'm doing a radio show, they'll say, okay, this team's got the defensive edge. The other team has the offensive edge. Phil, who's got the special teams edge? You could be that expert. You can answer that question instantly. Just go to FBS Info, hit special teams. We rank these things by punting, kick returns, punt returns, how they do against punt returns, kick returns, big plays, kicker rating, field goals. Add it all up, put it in. So let's take a look at this matchup here. And we find Nevada is number 21 in my special teams ratings. Air Force is all the way down here at number 126. Not playing good special teams this year. Do you have a special teams advantage? Yes. So we've got Air Force. Let's go back to this for a second. Take a look at Nevada. I think Nevada's got the slight offensive edge. Air Force got the slight defensive edge. And a big special teams edge and a huge home edge, I think, goes to Nevada in this. Plus, I like the matchups. I like the fact Air Force has not taken on pass attempts, and they struggle to. I tell you this all the time. Option teams struggle to practice for a passing team because they don't have. I mean, they run the option on offense. They're not a smooth passing offense. Meanwhile, Nevada does have the quarterback in Carson Strong. I guarantee you, there's no Carson Strongs on the Air Force roster to give them a great scout team look. So add it all up. I like Nevada. They're pick 'em. They're -1. They may turn out to be an underdog by the game starts. So we got a couple underdogs for you, maybe, right at the start of it. Your fourth one that we're going to take a look at here is Michigan and Maryland. So let's go ahead, and Michigan's on the road. And yeah, they're in a sandwich spot here. It's a pretty large sandwich. They're off a huge game against Penn State, and they've got a huge game against Ohio State on deck. That is a very large sandwich. Something I've used before here. Remember, we used Purdue over Michigan State, then Wisconsin over Purdue. I use sandwiches all the time. This case, this goes back to something I've been writing about the magazine for the last 4 years. With Maryland, there is a key indicator. There's a tell with Maryland, okay? That's for you poker players out there. There's a definite tell with Maryland. When you hold Maryland below 163 yards rushing, let's go take a look at this year, for example. They got 164 against West Virginia. They won. They got 227 against Howard. They won. They did only get 131 against Illinois, but they only won by 3. They didn't cover. They did get 142 against Kent, and they covered. But look at this, under 163 yards rushing. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Let's go take a look at the red. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. And I can tell you what, they didn't cover that Indiana game. 0-6 against the spread here. 0-7 against the spread. 0-7 against the spread. 1-7 against the spread. The one game they covered against the spread in that situation, under 164 yards, was Kent. Now on the flip side, when they do top it, they're 10-6 straight up. Let's go back and take a look at this year, for example. Over, win, under, loss, over, win, over, loss. That was an exception. Over, loss, exception, under, loss, under, loss, under, loss, under, loss, under. This one was over, and they covered this game against Michigan State. They were plus 17.5. They got over the 163, and they covered the game. Here, we go to 444 win, 132 loss, 315 win, 147 loss, 290 win, 68 loss, 431 win, 26 loss, 353, 339 cover, and loss. So they have a key tell here, 3-20 straight up, 4-19 or 4-19 straight up, 3-20 ATS when they don't get to 163 yards. That's when they match up against a physical team with a good defense. Michigan's a physical team with a good defense. Their defense holding opponents to 93 yards below their season average, number 7 in the country. Holding opponents to 123 yards per game rush, 3.6. They are that defense, which gives them trouble. My computer says Maryland, by the way, gets 63 yards rushing in this game. That means they would have to outdo my computer by 101 yards to get to that magical 164 number. Let's take a look at how these two teams have done against each other. Michigan, the last 5 years, has won 38-7, 42-21, 35-10, 59-3, 28-0. How about that? Michigan's done extremely well against Maryland. And now what this is, if this column is green, that means they won the game straight up. If this column is red, that means they lost the game straight up. If this column is green, that means they covered the game. If this column is red, that means they did not cover the game. So you don't have to, in your head, go, okay, they lost by 7, they were -6, they didn't cover. It's right there for you. Covered 5 in a row. 5-0 straight up, 5-0 ATS. So you've got the series dominance as well in this one. And the average win, by the way, as I just showed you, by 32.2 points per game. And when they've traveled here to Maryland, if you're worried about traveling here, they won by 31, they won by 25, and they won by 28. Each of those well past the number of 15.5. Now, Michigan has the special teams edge as well. Let's go take a look at that. We got the physical matchup we want. We got the defense that can stop Maryland's run game. That's the big thing you have to do to cover the game against Maryland. We've got the offense that's really playing better. Look at the last 4 weeks. Let's take a look at that. Well, actually, on the season, they're 442 yards per game, 445 yards per game the last 4 weeks. So the offense playing well. They're balanced, 193 yards rushing, 252 passing. And if we take a look at Maryland's defense, we got some red going on here, gentlemen. Look at this. 1, 2, 3, 4, 7 straight games where they've given up over. They're all red for 7 straight games. It's roughly close to 500 yards per game offense they're giving up against a team that's all green over here on the offensive side. So you got the red-green matchup involved in it as well. If you look at the special teams, we'll click over there real quick. Home page. Let's go ahead and click on the special teams. And we see that Michigan is... I got Michigan at number 7 right here. They're at the top of the special teams food chain. Michigan State's down here, or Maryland, I should say, is down here at number 101. So you have the special teams advantage. And then, of course, the opponent averages. When you click and look at that, Michigan, you would expect, would be dominating this category. Michigan is plus 85 yards per game above opponent averages, hold their opponents to 93 yards below their opponent averages. Maryland, by the way, is 44 yards above on offense, but minus 58 yards on defense. So you got a lot of good things going in Big Ten play. Michigan's plus 105 yards per game. Here's your conference right here. Maryland is minus 67 yards per game. Can Michigan handle the sandwich situation? I'm going to say yes. Let's take Michigan minus the 15.5. And let's get to a fifth one before I take my voice break here, mid-thing, and it is Oklahoma State against Texas Tech. And we'll start off here in the logs. And I probably caught onto this streak just a little late, but I tell you, this team's been impressing me lately. And then when I looked at the ATS logs, I'm like, wow. And you remember I have the thing about streaks. If you play on a streak, you can win many times, you lose only once. Look at Oklahoma State. They were awful at the start of the year. Awful against Missouri State. Awful against Tulsa. Lucky win against Boise. Played Kansas State with a backup quarterback and covered. Got past Baylor on a late touchdown to cover. These first 3 wins were lucky spread wins. The Texas game was a lucky spread win. They were down big in that game. They got an interception return for a touchdown that turned the game around. They were about to go down 24-3. So their first 4 games, these wins, they were all lucky. But now, starting to play better. They played a good game at Iowa State. They buried Kansas. They buried West Virginia. They buried TCU. And now that spread streak is 8. They're going for 9 in a row this week. So you got a nice little spread streak going. 8 in a row, going for 9 in a row. When you play on a streak, you can win many times and you lose only once. Let's take a look at the game a little bit closer. Oklahoma State's on the road. Look how they're doing the last 4 weeks. I told you I was not impressed with Oklahoma State up here. Even after the Texas game, even after the Iowa State game, still not that impressed. Now, granted, Kansas, West Virginia, TCU are not the greatest teams in the world, but you look at them the last 4 weeks, they're winning by an average of 41-12. They're plus 223 yards per game. The defense is holding opponents to 160 yards below their season average. Offense, 73 above. Texas Tech had a great game last week. They beat Iowa State. Came out of the blue. They were blown out by Oklahoma. They had fired their coach after the Kansas State game. Their last 4 weeks are decent. They're plus 6, but their last 4 weeks are dominant for Oklahoma State. And if you look at the average game grade, Oklahoma State's 125.1 versus 103, so that's 106 for the home field edge. That's Oklahoma State by 19.1. They're only laying 10 here. So, I mean, you got a 10-point game. Texas Tech just clinched a bowl game last week, so they're happy. They got what they wanted. And now I'm going to go to my favorite subject all year here on the Phil Steele Plus. Has been Wisconsin. I've been talking about Wisconsin's defense. They're as good as Georgia's defense. And if their record was the same, we'd be talking about Wisconsin's defense like we would Georgia. All right, so why am I bringing it up in Oklahoma State, Texas Tech game? Because Oklahoma State is number 3 on defense. If it wasn't for Wisconsin and Georgia, I'd be talking about Oklahoma State's defense. They're holding opponents to 142 yards per game below their season average, number 3 in the country, allowing 282 yards per game on the year. So as much as I've talked about Wisconsin's defense, Oklahoma State's defense really been impressing me. They held West Virginia to 133. They held TCU to 335. Look at the first down, 7, 11, 13. So add it all up, my fifth play, going to be Oklahoma State minus 10 over Texas Tech. Now, you're not going to notice this, but I'm going to take a quick break, get my voice refreshed, and hop back on here with you in a few minutes. Let's go to the next game. Take a look at the big game of the weekend, Ohio State, Michigan State. do want to jump up on my soapbox a little bit from what I've been hearing from all the national media. I know complaining about where the selection committee has people ranked gets you clicks, gets people listening. I actually think the committee's doing a really good job here. And the one narrative that's bothering me this week is folks saying, well, the committee has proven that they don't value head-to-head. Well, that's not true at all. The committee's proven they do value head-to-head. They've got Oregon to get over Ohio State. They've got Cincinnati over Notre Dame. And when you look at Michigan and Michigan State, they're not even close statistically. I mean, if you followed that game when Michigan played Michigan State, Michigan had a 552 to 395 yard edge, 27 to 20 first down edge. They led the game 30 to 14. Michigan State needed some fourth down conversions, 2-point conversions. They needed a fumble return for a touchdown by Michigan, which was a fumble return for a touchdown, ruled overturned by replay. I'm not even sure how they overturned that. There's no video evidence showing anything. And somehow, some way, Michigan State won the game. On the season, Michigan is plus 109 yards per game in Big Ten play. Michigan State's minus 25. Michigan State had 12 first downs against Nebraska, 254 yards, 13 first downs against Indiana. So the committee doesn't value head-to-head is false. Somebody had taken a clip of what the Gary Barta had said and said, well, we don't study the film. That's not what they said at all, but they do. They've watched these two teams, and the only time head-to-head comes to play is when the two teams are equal. These two teams are not equal, so that's why the head-to-head's not counted in Michigan State. Plus, that was at Michigan State. Put the two teams on a neutral field, Michigan would be over a touchdown favorite in the game. And once again, if you go to the Vegas power ratings, which tell you the real strength of the teams, to go to the home page, click on Vegas power ratings. Michigan right now is number 4 in the country at 125.3. Michigan State's number 20 in the country at 117.46. So in that case, head-to-head wouldn't matter either. So I'm just throwing that out there. But if you are a Spartan fan, don't get all upset about where you're ranked. Beat Ohio State, beat Penn State, beat Wisconsin in the Big Ten title game, and Michigan State's in the playoff. You don't have to worry where you're ranked. You'll be there. Go out on the field and do it, for crying out loud. All right, let's get to this game, though. We'll take a look at Michigan State, Ohio State. I'm going to put Ohio State on the right and Michigan State on the left. Now, remember when I did the Purdue-Michigan State breakdown, I picked Purdue, and I said their passing game, I said take David Bell, make him your star in your fantasy football team. He had 225 yards. Purdue threw for 536 yards. Purdue beat them 40-29. Ohio State just beat that same Purdue team 59-31. And interestingly, if you look at Ohio State, yeah, they gave up 481 yards last week, but let's click on that game a little closer. Ohio State at the start of the second quarter led 35-7. This is a 45-17 game at the half. They're up by 28 points. Purdue got a touchdown here on a 75-yard drive. Purdue got a touchdown on an 87-yard drive. And we do give you halftime stats on every game as well. So Ohio State at the half had a 386, 253-yard edge. So no, their defense isn't great, but Purdue did get some late scores in that game to make it close. But if you take a look at yards per game versus opponent average, this is something we have on philsteele.com. Just, once again, click on the homepage and click right here on the FBS info. We have this for the NFL as well. This tells you your yards per game versus offense and defense combined. So here, Alabama is plus 109 yards per game above what opponents allow, and their defense holds opponents to 128.8 yards below their season average. They add the two together, it's 237. That's number 1 in the country. Ohio State's number 3 in the country in that category. Wisconsin's number 4. Michigan's number 5. All right, let's go find Michigan State here now. Oklahoma State, Iowa State. Going down the line. Michigan State, they're gaining 56 yards per game above what their opponents allow. Their defense gives opponents 56 yards per game below or above what they come in averaging. So if you average 350 yards per game, Michigan State's going to give you 406. That's what this stat is right here. So that right there is a nice indicator that we've got the better team in Ohio State. They just beat a Purdue team that beat Michigan State. And Michigan State twice has had very few first downs, as I mentioned. Take a look at how these two teams have done. Well, let's go ahead and go back to that now. But this is available for every game. You can look at that. It's a quick way to look at those opponent averages, which I look at every game. I find them invaluable. Let's go here, though, and let's find Ohio State on the right. And we're going to click on this Michigan State rival. Let's see how Ohio State's done at home against Michigan State. They won 34-10 2 years ago. Last year they won 52-12, and that was without their head coach and without a bunch of players. And home against Michigan State, they won 48-3. So they pretty much have dominated the last 4 years against Michigan State, winning them all pretty easy. If you look at how Michigan State's done against the top 4 pass offenses they've taken on, Purdue, Maryland, Western Kentucky, Miami of Florida. You see the red out here. They did win the Miami of Florida game. They did win the Western Kentucky game, but they give up a lot of yards through the air. And Ohio State, by the way, pick up the magazine, look at my receiving core. Who's got the number 1 receiving core in the country? Oh, it's Ohio State. And that was because of Garrett Wilson, Chris Olave, and Jeremy Ruckert. Those are the 3 guys I mentioned in there. I didn't talk about Jackson Smith-Njigba, and he's leading the team in receptions. So this is an unstoppable pass offense. Look at the green out here. Their worst game did come against Tulsa, 185, but Stroud was not 100% for that game. I also have a 1,000-yard rusher in Travian Henderson. I think Ohio State does indeed score a lot here. Michigan State in Big Ten play, minus 29 yards per game. Ohio State plus 186 yards per game. Last week, Ohio State led 52-17 at one point. And so add it all up, I think what we have is a team that, you got a lot of, this is actually a red-green matchup. You don't get that very often in a battle of top 5 teams here. You've got red over here, green over here, perfect setup. And Ohio State's laying less than 3 touchdowns. They're only laying 19. I'll take Ohio State minus the 19 over Michigan State. And once again, if Michigan State beats Ohio State, I'll be a believer. I'll say right then and there, Michigan State's going to win the Big Ten and go to the playoff. Just go do it, Spartan fans. But I'm picking Ohio State this week minus the 19. All right, let's shift our gears a little bit. I got a couple of interesting FCS games. And, the FCS playoffs are coming up, guys. This is an invaluable source. You will be an expert. You will know everything about every team in the FCS playoffs where nobody knows anything about those teams because they're not following them. And I didn't really follow Weber State or Northern Colorado. I knew about them coming into the year. I knew that Weber State, if we go down and click on the conferences here, and right here we click on the conference, I knew Weber State was the favorite to win the Big Sky this year. And I knew Northern Colorado with a new head coach and new staff was picked 12th. So, yeah, I had that in my mind at the start of the year coming in, but I didn't even know how Weber State was doing. And when you click on Weber State, you're a little shocked here. You got 5 losses. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 wins and 5 losses. So your off-the-cuff reaction is, well, I guess Weber State's not that good. And Northern Colorado is, let's go find Northern Colorado here. Northern Colorado is what we thought they were, although they've won 3 games. They beat Houston Baptist, although Houston Baptist offense is in Western Kentucky this year. They beat Northern Arizona and they beat Southern Utah, and they've been playing decent in the game, so they're not probably as bad. Their head coach, by the way, is Ed McCaffrey. The quarterback is Dylan McCaffrey. And if you read the forecast, you see all this right in there. We give you the complete write-up on every FCS team at the start of the year. They're handy throughout the year. You can get individual player stats, see how each of the players is doing. You can see what Dylan McCaffrey's done all season long. Is he running the football? You look at this. He ran for 100 yards against Southern Utah. I didn't know that. I'm just finding it out. Now I'm an instant expert on Northern Colorado football, and I've got it all right here. We do see a lot of red in here. A couple things I want to point out. Last night, I actually went down and wrote all 4 mutual opponents for these two side by side. And if you look at Weber State, they both played UC Davis. They lost to UC Davis by 3. They lost to UC Davis by 29. Montana State, they lost to Montana State by 6. They lost to Montana State by 33. Eastern Washington, they beat Eastern Washington 35-34. That's a hell of a win. They lost to Eastern Washington 63-17. Southern Utah, they beat 62-0 last week. They're trying to get in the playoff, and I'll talk about that in a minute. These guys did beat Southern Utah, but only 17-9. We're actually outgained by 3 yards in the game. They outgained Southern Utah by 404 yards at a 480 to 76-yard edge. Now, if you follow me on Twitter, I post things all the time. And last night I posted the top And this is what got me going on this game, as well as our FCS guy, Jim, had some notes on the game as well that got me on this game. But when I typed in the average game grades for the season, North Dakota State's at the top. They're not ranked number one, but I feel they are the number one team. James Madison, 2. Weber State's number 3 in average game grade? What? They're 5-5. Missouri State, Montana State, Southeast Louisiana. Sam Houston State's number 1, but they're only number 7 in average game grade. So right there, you've got a very sneaky 5-5 team. Let's go ahead and go back to. By the way, if you follow me on Twitter, it is at Phil Steele 042, and you get all this stuff all the time. I post things, but let's go back here now. Let's go back to FCS info. Let's go ahead and put Weber State on the left, or on the right, because they're the home team. So how is Weber State ranked so high? Well, we see that they actually played Utah, which they played to 100 level because they're only outgained by Utah by 180 yards. Utah's a hell of a team. They played James Madison, one of the best teams, and only lost by 13. And they only got outgained by 33 yards. And James Madison's at the top of the rankings. The UC Davis was a 3-point loss that they actually had a 97-yard edge. The Montana State game was a 6-point loss that they actually had a 47-yard edge. Their defense is holding opponents to 126 yards below their season average. Their defense is giving up 10 yards above. Their offense is 128 below season average. So if they gain 128 less than 284, that's 162 yards. Meanwhile, if they hold them to 126 below 277, that's 151 yards. So you're looking at Northern Colorado getting about 150 yards. And here's one other thing I noticed last night, which going through the team. Let's go to individual player stats. They've got a returning quarterback in Bronson Barron. Last year, Barron had a 7-2 ratio, and so he was taking over for Jack Constantine, who's at a different school now. But let's take a look one thing here. Bronson Barron, quarterback, miss James Madison, miss UC Davis, miss Cal Poly. Now, what was the record in those games? Loss, win. They were 1-2. So 2 of their 5 losses came without their starting quarterback. Playoff committee, are you listening to me? If you're in the FCS selection process, Weber State's a heck of a team, and now they've got their quarterback back. You could tell that. We've got individual player stats on every FCS team. So he missed 3 games, came back, he's played the last 5, and boom, they're playing like we thought they were. They're number 3 in the country, and guess what? In this game, they're laying 22.5. They need to impress the committee. They will impress the committee. I like Weber State to win this one big. Lay the 22.5 here. I mean, they played the tougher schedule as well. And let me see if I have anything else noted. Big wins, mutual opponents. All right. So in the mutual opponents, by the way, Northern Colorado is minus 25 points per game. Weber State is plus 13.5 points per game. Add those two together, that's 38.5. Look here, you've got 87.2 for an average game grade, 61.6. So the average game grade is 25.6. Add in the 3-edge, that's 28.6. Plus they're playing so much better. I like Weber State minus the 22.5. All right, this next one, I remember this headline, reading about this headline many times. They even made a documentary of it because Tommy Lee Jones was a tackle for Harvard in this game back in 1968. And the headline read, Harvard beats Yale 29-29. The game was a tie game. This is an intense rivalry. I believe the quarterback for Yale was from Cleveland, Brian Dowling. And he's from the Cleveland area. So Cleveland, the Cleveland papers had that stuff back then. I was just a wee child, very, very young. But I was following football. I've followed football my whole life, for crying out loud. I was very young, but 29-29. And when I say very young, I'm talking below 10 years old, gentlemen. I'm talking about like 6 years old. 29-29, Harvard beats Yale, one of the most famous headlines ever. So let's take a look here at the FCS team pages. In this game, I was a little surprised. I just looked at the line, and one of my guys who writes the Ivy, he's also one of our top guys for the magazine, Chris. He follows the Ivy League closely. He likes this game, and I looked at the line and saw this is a rivalry game. I like rivalry home dogs. Yale is plus 8.5. So I asked him what he thought about it, and he liked it. So that's why it's here on the Phil Steele Plus tour with selections. We put Yale over here on the right. We're going to put Harvard on the left. Now, we visited Yale before. Remember? We picked Connecticut. I believe they were minus 2.5 against Yale, and Connecticut won 21-15. Connecticut led 21-0, and Yale made a comeback in that one. And then we picked Yale over Columbia. Remember, their game was like minus 2.5. They won 37-30. They had a 421, 344-yard edge. So twice on this Phil Steele Plus tour, we've used Yale this year, so we know all about them. We remember that they started using a mobile quarterback at some point to run the football. Nolan Grooms is throwing the football now here. So this is a Yale team that's playing pretty well. And the interesting thing is, let's take a look at the conference stats. Yale in the conference play is plus 36 yards per game. Harvard in conference play is plus 35 yards per game. And things are pretty even, with the exception of that they lost to Princeton last week by 15, and they beat Penn 23-7. But my Ivy League guy pointed out to me that last week, Harvard only led Penn 13-7 at the half, and Yale only trailed Princeton 21-17 at the half. You look at their average game grades, Harvard's 69, they're 65. Yale's at home, so that's practically even. All the numbers came up saying this game's close to even, maybe 3-point difference, and yet Harvard is an 8.5-point favorite in this rivalry game. So you've got stats dead even. Records are pretty close. These guys are 4-3, or 4-2 in conference play. They're 4-2 in conference play. The stats are even in conference play. I'm just wondering what the heck Yale is an 8.5-point favorite for. So it may be one of those things. I don't think they can tie anymore. That's not going to happen. But you've got a rivalry dog in a big-time rivalry. And while my computer says Harvard wins this thing 29-24, which is by 5, the yards that my computer forecasts actually have Yale with a 344, 322-yard edge. All right, I give you 8 plays every week. There's 8. Let's get to some quick hitters, though. I've got 3 more quick hitters in college. I've got an NFL quick hitter for you. Let's go hit the FCS quick hitter real quick. And it is Elon against Rhode Island. Now, the only tentative thing is Rhode Island beat me a couple weeks ago when they beat UMass 35-22. That one bothered me. So I'm a little tentative going against Rhode Island. But here's the things that Elon's got going. Once again, my Jim, our FCS guy, recommended this one. And going through the individual numbers, I broke down all the mutual opponents. These two teams have each played 4 mutual opponents: Towson, Villanova, Maine, and New Hampshire. You guys can study this on Phil Steele Plus. I don't want to take up too much of your time. But basically, Rhode Island is minus 15 points per game, minus 133 yards per game in those 4 games. Meanwhile, Elon is plus 3 points per game and plus 1.5 yards per game. So much better numbers against mutual opponents this year in the favor of Elon. Elon's also played App State here, as you can tell. And the numbers, the only way we get them into the mix is if my 8 sets of power ratings all agree on one side, and they all do like Elon here. Elon is laying 3.5 at home. So you've got a team that I think is better. They're at home. Rhode Island did get this win at UMass and did get a comfortable win here, but it's a quick hitter. Let's go with Elon minus 3.5 over Rhode Island. Let's take a look at some college quick hitters, just some things in my research during the week I want to point out to you and give you some quick hitting plays. These quick hitters have been doing well. The NFL quick hitters last week went 2-0, so I got a quick hitter in the NFL for you. Let's start with NC State against Syracuse. NC State's off a loss. They're at home. They've got one of the more underrated quarterbacks in the country in Devin Leary. 65%, 30 touchdowns, 5 interceptions. He's got Amizi, Carter, Thomas. They've got a good receiving core. They're able to throw the ball. And we're going to go back to the homepage for this, and we're going to click on the pass defense. This is up here on every single one. It allows me to show you the pass efficiency defense. Now, this is not just the yards attempts percentage, but does take into account the opponent. And remember, we talked about Air Force a little earlier about how they've only taken on 2 pass attacks all year. Well, that is factored into this. Air Force does have a very good defense this year, but they're actually number 85 in the pass defense. Because look at this. They've taken on an average 9.9 passer. These guys at the top, they're taking on 14, 13. So they have taken on, is it the weakest pass offense in the country so far? Yeah, how about that? That's another thing. This is the weakest They've taken on the weakest schedule of pass offenses in the country. That's why they're down here at number 85, despite the fact they're only allowing 55%, only allowing 184 yards per game. We factor in the opponent yards. NCAA doesn't. They probably have Air Force a lot higher in their pass efficiency ratings. But anyway, Syracuse has a good defense. They're holding opponents below a season average this year, but they're also number 103. They're giving up 64.5%, 16 touchdowns, only 3 interceptions. I think Devin Leary's a good matchup against that pass defense. Quick hitter, NC State minus the points over Syracuse. Now let's take a look at Georgia Tech's defense. Coming into the year, they had some pretty high expectations. Almost everybody back, but we haven't seen the improvement. We're going to put Georgia Tech on the left. We're going to put Notre Dame on the right. Notre Dame is our team on the right. Notre Dame won a big game last week for some folks I know, and they beat Virginia 28-3. Anyway, we take a look over here for Georgia Tech. Look at this defense. They started out the year looking good. First 4 games of the year, Georgia Tech was allowing, about 300 yards per game. But the last 6 weeks, they're giving up 544 yards per game. And they're taking on a Notre Dame team that's lying in the weeds. They lost to Cincinnati. Everybody dismissed their hopes. They beat Virginia Tech. They beat USC by 15. They beat North Carolina by 10. They beat Navy by 28. They beat Virginia by 25. They're creeping back in there. And the offense the last 4 weeks, 440 yards per game, taking on a defense that's over the last 6 weeks given up 544 yards per game. So you've got a red-hot Notre Dame team against a ice-cold Georgia Tech defense. Notre Dame has actually covered 5 straight, taking on the tougher schedule, number 6 against number 58. Quick hitter, we're going to go with Notre Dame minus the points over Georgia Tech. And finally, let's wrap up your FBS, and then I'm going to go NFL. And those NFL went 2-0 last week. So and Todd's going to give me the record, by the way, in the NFL press box in a minute. But if you look at the college, we're going to look at another big game. Arkansas traveling to Alabama. You guys know how high on the hog I was at the start of the year. I mean, Arkansas, what's that? All right, 13-7. I'll get to that in a minute. How high on the hog I was with Arkansas at the start of the year. They won their first 4 games. They blew out Texas. They blew out Texas A&M. And when they beat Texas, Texas was playing very well. They actually rose to number 4 in my AGG. I didn't want to go against them against Georgia, but they lost. And then they did cover the next week. They blew a 2-point conversion at the end against Ole Miss. But then they lost to Auburn at home. They beat Arkansas Pine Bluff. Mississippi State missed 3 field goals, had a 486, 293-yard edge, 28-23 first down edge. Last week, watching the LSU-Arkansas game, actually I watch all the games, LSU controlled that game. They had a 20-13 first down edge. If you go back and look at this game, Arkansas got this 43-yard touchdown pass by Jefferson where he scrambled around. That really turned the game around, got it into a tie, and turned into a 13-13 game. And in overtime, Arkansas won. But they were out first down, 20-13. They're happy to be in a bowl game, and I don't think they're playing their best ball. And over the last 4 weeks, they're playing to a 100.7 average. They were a lot higher here. Those first 4 games, they're probably in the 120s, which is where Alabama's at right now over the last 4 weeks. That's where Arkansas was playing. They're not playing that way now. They're in the last 4 weeks, they're only playing to a 100 level. Alabama's playing to a 127.8 level. They have Auburn on deck, the Iron Bowl, big game. But heck, the last 2 weeks, I mean, they had a bye. They did have a tough game against LSU. They played New Mexico State. They're at home. It's their first SEC game since that close one to LSU. I look for some intense effort. It's a final home game for Alabama. I think they'll play tough in this one. And the last 4 weeks says Alabama by 31.1. I believe the spread in this game is right around 3 touchdowns. Yeah, 20.5. So let's take Alabama minus 20.5 as a quick hitter. All right, we've done it for the FBS. I think I showed you everything. I just want to remind you that last 40 years results take you back to 1976. We even give you a halftime since 2004, and we give you totals since 2003. That's when totals started coming up on every game. There were no totals on games in 1991, or I'd have them there for you. So now let's go to the NFL. And all you have to do is go to the NFL team pages. I will say this, my NFL guy, Sean, writes my NFL pages for me. I used to write them, I would say 3-4 years ago, but it's just too much with all the, I mean, this week, guys, I am voting on 10 different awards. I am voting on the Football Writers All-American team, the Joe Moore Award. I could just list all the awards I'm voting on this week. A lot of that. I'm studying every single game. I watch every game on TV. I go through the play-by-play of every game. I'm writing every write-up in college football. Don't have time to watch or write the NFL. So that's why I let Sean do it. And he's having a hell of a year. 13-7 on the selections in Inside the Press Box NFL. But I like to look at what he's got written, and I'll pick a game that I may lean with for the week in my little bit of research. I do watch ESPN. I watch the recaps of the games from the previous week, so I have some mild knowledge on the NFL. We're going to put Philadelphia on the right because they're at home here. And this is just a quick hitter, by the way. It's not an official play, just a quick hitter. But last week, the quick hitters were New Orleans over Tennessee and Green Bay over Seattle, and both of those worked out pretty good. Here's Philadelphia, and here's New Orleans. I talked about New Orleans. Do you know last week they had a 373 to 264-yard edge at Tennessee, getting 3? And they lost by 2, but they missed a 2-point conversion at the end. So they actually outgained Tennessee, who's regarded as the best team in the AFC, by 109 yards. They've got a tremendous record on the road. They're 8-3 away from the Superdome. Remember this Green Bay game. It's marked here as a home game because it was an official home game, but New Orleans wasn't even at home for that game. I think it was in Florida, and they won that game. So you put New Orleans away from the Superdome, and they're almost unbeatable. They beat New England 28-13. They beat Washington. They went into Seattle and won. And then last week, they probably should have beaten Tennessee. So you got a very good road team here. Also, here's Philadelphia at home. They lost to Frisco, lost to Kansas City, lost to Tampa Bay, lost to the Chargers. Remember, we used the Chargers over Philadelphia in that game. We were minus 2.5, I believe it was. And the Chargers had a 445, 331-yard edge and won by 3. So a nice winner there. So I'm familiar with both these teams, what they've been doing. And that's why I like the Saints. They're in this one, they're only laying, let me see what their point spread is here. It's under a field goal, I should say. So basically, they just have to win the game. They're a 2-point dog. New Orleans is a dog in this game, +2. The spreads probably doesn't mean anything. If you're +2, -2, I mean, that's basically about the same thing. But the Saints are +2 this week against Philadelphia. And then when you're doing your research on the NFL, make sure you hit over here on the homepage under the NFL. We have got the strength of wins, pain of losses. And if you look at that, if you beat a team, you get credit for the wins. If you lose to a team, you get credit for their losses. Well, Saints are 26-18. So they beat teams that have won 26 games. They've lost to teams that have lost 18 games. So that puts them about here. Philadelphia, they're down here, 14-22. The teams Philadelphia have beaten have only won a combined 14 games this year. The teams they've lost to have lost 22. So the Saints are the better team here. The Saints are the better team here, and I think the Saints are the better team, and they're +2 points. So your quick hitter in the NFL is the Saints +2. A couple other things I want to show you in the FBS. Let me see if we got something there. Also, when you're on here and you get to the tour with selections, please, if you could, when you're on here, share it, subscribe, and hit the bell, and then we'll notify you when the stuff comes up. So do make sure you do that when you watch this video. Please do that. And finally, was there anything else I want to show you in the FBS? Here in the NFL, you actually go back in the NFL all the way back. You got green, red. And once again, in the NFL, if you want to find out how the Saints do against Philadelphia, you click on that. Actually, all this information is available. There's so much on the Phil Steele Plus site. I can't show it all to you every single week, but you guys know what it is. I've taken up enough of your time for today. I appreciate you taking the time to watch this, and hopefully we got some winners this week, guys. I put a lot of work and effort into it. Let's hope we get a nice 7-1, 8-0 week this week. I'll be back with you next week on Thanksgiving week. I'll be up. I'm working on Thanksgiving. It's a work day for me. So we will have the Phil Steele Plus up for you. I'll let you know on my Twitter account when it's up. That's at PhilSteele042. Thanks again, and good luck to you guys this weekend.